Alright. Salakia. Shalom. First of all, I just want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to our brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. And shalom to all the sincere believers. Now, this lesson is going to be in regards to basically the fact that we're in the last days. So things are going to get continuously worse. And in particular, it's going to be in regards to the storms and tempests of the Lord. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read this article, get some precepts, and Lord's will, you're edified. It says, Melissa now tied for strongest hurricane ever recorded. NHC post-storm analysis finds. It says 4 months after Hurricane Melissa devastated western Jamaica, the National Hurricane Center released a tropical cyclone report upgrading Melissa's peak sustained wind speeds to 190 miles per hour. Melissa now ties Hurricane Allen from 1980 as the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin. With a minimum central pressure of 892 millibars, Melissa also tied with the 1935 Labor Day hurricane for third lowest central pressure in the Atlantic Basin. Millibars refer to units of air pressure that meteorologists use to measure pressure. Melissa's estimated peak intensity of 190 miles per hour and minimum central pressure of 892 millibars are primarily based on data collected by Air Force Reserve and NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft. However, both were unable to fully sample the storm's entire circulation, including the northeast quadrant where the strongest winds were likely occurring. In the post-storm analysis, the National Hurricane Center stated the updated estimate is based on a blend of satellite estimates, flight level wind, and drops in Sunday data, and the knowledge that the area of strongest winds were likely not sampled by the aircraft. The National Hurricane Center notes that best track intensity estimates typically have an uncertainty of around 10% above or below the estimated value. Yeah, but either way, these hurricanes, these tornadoes, these tropical storms that the Lord is sending, they're going to get a lot more intense and a lot more destructive and a lot more deadly because we are living in the last days. So everything is going to be intensified. 2 Timothy 3:1, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. And when you look up the definition of perilous, it means full of danger or risk. And we are clearly in some dangerous times. These snowstorms, these blizzards that have been hitting have been breaking records, record-breaking snowstorms, record-breaking wind chills. The temperature has been dropping to record numbers. So clearly things are getting worse. Things are intensifying. And for all the simple-minded, wicked people out here that will say that this is Mother Nature, no, this is the work of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. Isaiah 29:6, thou shalt be visited of the Lord Yahweh of hosts, with thunder, and with earthquake, and great noise, with storm and tempest, and the flame of devouring fire. That's right. So the torrential rain, the lightning, the thunder, the hail, the tornadoes, the hurricanes, the tropical storms, these are all the works of the Lord Yahweh, the Heavenly Father. These are all ways in which He is visiting this world. He's visiting these different countries, these different islands with these storms and these tempests, these destructive, deadly storms and tempests. And I have the definition of tempest here. It says a violent, windy storm, squall, gale, hurricane, tornado, cyclone, typhoon, superstorm, thunderstorm, cloudburst, downpour, rainstorm, hailstorm, deluge, monsoon, tropical storm, electrical storm, snowstorm, blizzard, dust storm, dust devil, willy wah, ice storm, windstorm, turmoil, tumult, turbulence, ferment, like just so on and so forth. It just keeps going. And clearly, that's what the Lord visited Western Jamaica with, a violent windy storm, a hurricane. It says a hurricane, a storm with a violent wind, in particular a tropical cyclone in the Caribbean. A Caribbean, Slovakia. So there is no getting around it. That was the work of the Lord. It has nothing to do with no Mother Nature. Isaiah 28:2, behold, the Lord hath a mighty and strong one, which has a tempest of hail and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing shall cast down to the earth with the hand. And when the Lord unleashes these hurricanes, it causes a lot of destruction. Destroys homes, destroys businesses, destroys land, kills people. This is not a joke. This is not a game. This is very serious stuff going on. And the men of the Lord, starting with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, have been warning people that these perilous, dangerous, hazardous, treacherous times were going to come. And now we're living in those times where, in particular, these storms and tempests of the Lord are becoming more and more intense. And they're happening a lot more frequently. Every time you turn around, there's some storm happening, whether it's a rainstorm or a snowstorm. Some places get hit with hail. Some areas get hit with tornadoes. Some areas get hit with hurricanes. Like, it's always something happening because we're living in the last days. Psalms 11:6. Upon the wicked he shall rain snares, fire and brimstone, and an horrible tempest. This shall be the portion of their cup. And the Lord did send a horrible tempest upon Western Jamaica in the form of that hurricane. There is no escaping this truth. Everything that's taking place on this earth was written in the scriptures and foretold to take place. And now it's happening. And we are witnessing it. We are living in those times where the things written in these scriptures are coming to pass. Psalms 83:14, as the fire burneth a wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. Verse 15, so persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. And that's clearly what the Lord is doing. Dishing out these storms and tempests, the rain, the lightning, the hail, the thunder, the snow, the tornadoes, the hurricanes. Like, the Lord is not messing around in these last days. He's bringing all sorts of destruction and violence and chaos to these wicked kingdoms and to these wicked people. Psalm 79:6, pour out thy wrath upon the heathen that have not known thee, and upon the kingdoms that have not called upon thy name. And clearly that's what the Lord is doing. That's why all of these different islands, that's why these different countries, they're getting hit with all this judgment. They're getting hit with all these earthquakes. They're getting hit with all these fires. They're getting hit with these various forms of storms and tempests. Because the Lord is pouring out his wrath upon them. And the Lord's wrath is going to continue to intensify upon these wicked kingdoms and upon these wicked people. Because, according to Psalm 7 and 11, Yahweh judgeth the righteous, and Yahweh is angry with the wicked every day. And that's why every day the wrath of the Lord is being poured out upon these people in whatever form the Lord chooses to make it manifested. That's why every day people get wounded and killed, because these are the people with whom the Lord is angry with. These are the wicked people who are constantly, daily provoking the Lord unto wrath with their wickedness. And now they are being punished. Now the judgment of the Lord is being executed upon them. Psalms 9 and 16. The Lord Yahweh is known by the judgment which he executeth. The wicked is snared in the work of his own hands. Higgaion Selah. That's right. So these hurricanes, these tornadoes, volcano eruptions, torrential rainstorms, flash floods, blizzards, wildfires, all of these different things that are taking place are the judgments of the Heavenly Father. This is how he's punishing these wicked people. This is how he's bringing destruction to these wicked kingdoms. And it's going to get a whole lot worse. You know, through the Spirit, I've been saying that once we make it out of winter and into summer, you know, things are going to get even more intense. You know, because here in winter, you know, we've been getting these record low temperatures. You know, it's just snowstorms, you know, and blizzards. And I believe that once we get into the summer, it's going to be a bunch of heat waves, bunch of power outages, bunch of wildfires, you know, a bunch of tornadoes tearing through certain places, bunch of hurricanes spawning and tearing through, you know, islands, you know, a bunch of tropical storms hitting. And this is all the judgment of the Lord. These are all signs that we are in the last days. See, those of us of the Hope Elect, we understand that. So when these events take place, we're not surprised because we already know what to expect in these last days. It's all of these simple-minded, wicked people who refuse to take heed to the warnings of the men of the Lord, who are constantly caught off guard when these events take place. Proverbs 22 and 3. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. And that's right. Slakia, 1 second. I have the definition of prudent here. It says acting with or showing care and thought for the future. Wise. It says having or showing experience, knowledge, and good judgment. So a wise man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself. That's what those of us of the Hopeful Elect are doing. Through the Spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, we have been made wise. We are showing our good judgment and showing that we have knowledge. You know, the Lord has blessed us with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of these scriptures. We know that these last days are going to be full of violence and chaos and destruction and death and many great miseries. So we're cleaving unto the Lord knowing that the Lord is the one sending all of these judgments. Therefore, the Lord is the only one who can protect us. And like it says, Proverbs 22:3, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. And that's majority of these people. They're over here trusting in Esau. They think, oh yeah, if there's going to be a tornado or a hurricane, there's some shelter we can run into, or, just hide in our basement or in a cellar or something like that. Because they really think that that stuff is going to keep them safe. They don't understand that it's up to the Heavenly Father whether you're safe or not. There have been so many people, in particular, like out there in Florida. Florida gets hit with, hurricanes. And there's been so many people who, over the years, have been able to weather a few hurricanes in their lifetime. But because we're in the last days and these hurricanes have been getting a lot more intense and destructive, these same people, whenever they get a warning that a hurricane is coming, instead of them being wise and getting out of the way, they're like, oh no, I've done this before. I've been through hurricanes before. I'll be fine. And then the Lord hits them with that hurricane and it's worse than what they've ever experienced, and they end up dead. Like, it's these simple people that really think that they can handle the wrath of the Lord. And it's like, no, you can't. The power of the Lord is beyond your mere comprehension. When the Lord decides that he wants to bring some destruction and cause some deaths, there's nobody that can handle that. There's nobody that can survive that. And more of these wicked people are going to have to learn that lesson the hard way after death by pain. We've been seeing it in the recent years, that, you have these people, like I said, when these hurricanes hit, in the beginning, they think they can handle it. They're fine. But then that hurricane starts bearing down upon them. They're in their house, everything starts falling off the shelves, everything is shaking violently. Maybe, some flood waters break into their house. And then they get real scared. Then they want to get out of that situation, but it's too late. This is what happens when you play around. When you think everything is all fun and games and a joke, the Lord will hit you with reality and let you know that this was never a joke. This was never a game. This was always serious. And you should have always treated it as such. And when you don't, you're going to get punished. So, for those of us of the hopeful elect, as we get further and further into these last days and we watch the judgments of the Lord intensify upon the earth, and all of these simple, wicked, rebellious people get punished, we can't feel bad for them because we've been warning them. And they scoffed and scorned, they laughed in our face, they told us we were crazy. So now the Lord has to show them that we weren't any of those things. We're not crazy. We were telling them the truth. We were trying to warn them. But they refused to heed the warning, so now they have to die. And that sounds harsh, but that's just the reality of it. Like, once you warn the people and let them know what's going to happen, and they refuse, now the blood is off your hands. You did what you were supposed to do. You warned them. After that, there's nothing you can do. If the Lord does not put the spirit on these people to take heed to the warnings, then that means that they were fit for destruction. And there's nothing you can do to save these people. There's nothing you can do to deliver these people out of the hand of the Lord. You just got to let them die. You just got to watch them die. And that very well may include your friends, your worldly friends, I should say, your family members, people that you care about. But the Lord is not for everybody. The Lord does not love everybody like what they're taught up in these harlot houses. The Lord has a select few, especially in these times, that he cares about. The people that are moving righteously. Majority of the people out here are moving wickedly, and they know that they're being wicked and they don't care. And they're not going to care until those judgments are brought upon them, until those many great miseries are brought upon them, until those sore strokes from the Lord are brought upon them. Then they're going to care. Then they're going to want to wake up. But for a lot of these people, it's going to be too late. Those gates of mercy will be closed, and their fate, for lack of a better term, will be sealed. These last days are not going to be calm and peaceful. They're going to be the most chaotic and violent and horrific and scary that the world has ever seen or experienced. And the only chance anybody would ever have of making it out of that is that you have to have the protection of the Lord. Esau and his carnal weaponry and, his carnal man-made infrastructures can't protect you from the wrath of the Lord. And those of us of the hopeful elect, we understand that. You have, these Christians that think that, when, tornadoes or hurricanes hit, oh yeah, just run up in the harlot house, in the so-called church. But the scriptures tell us that the Lord does not dwell in temples made with hands. So the Lord is not going to protect you up in there. Like that church is going to get wiped out, and you're going to get wiped out right along with it. This has never been a game. This has never been a joke. And the men of the Lord cannot stress that enough. But these people, they have to experience it. They have to feel it. They have to feel that fear of the Lord. And they're going to. The Lord is going to make them feel it right before he wipes them out. So, just expect, these hurricanes, these tornadoes, these blizzards, these snowstorms, these rainstorms, all of these different storms and tempests and fires and earthquakes and all the other judgments that have been taking place throughout the world to just get a lot more intense. Because we're in the last days. And that's all you can expect from these last days. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakudash. The water Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. And shalom to all the sincere believers. Hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan Ratazah. Till next time, shalom.